Welcome back, everyone. I am the Depressed Hero, and this is Langrisser Mobile Apex Season 8. Time-wise, this is the first Sunday of the season. Previous video was, of course, I did all my placement matches at the earliest hour. Now I'm doing a match at the earliest hour on Sunday at Silver 3. So this will be a little bit different, as you can probably tell from the box. Now, a few things to note. Kyura is now 6 stars. As I mentioned in the previous video, I only needed 3 more shards, so I got those on Sunday. I got an okay enchant on my Nightbloom staff, so I passed that on to Florentia, so now she can dispel additional effects. Having experience trying to do the 5 placement matches at 3 a.m., I'm probably not going to do that again next season. So I'll probably be doing the placement matches on a better time, so I don't make more mistakes. I was pretty down after the last 3 matches because they were all losses and a lot of dumb mistakes. So I was hoping to make up for it by trying to catch up a little bit, since now I'm Silver 3 and it's going to be a while before I hit Gold 3. Anyway, enough rambling. Let's go on to some more rambling. So our opponent has, looks like 4 healers. Imelda, it's nothing too surprising. It feels like a rush box. Now, one thing someone informed me a while back about SP classes is the icon, their portrait will actually change if it's an SP class. So that actually will give you a tip on whether or not your opponent has an SP class or not. I didn't really remember that for this match. I just assumed that this SP Ultimiller was going to, or this Ultimiller was going to be an SP class, but this one is not. But yeah, it seems to be mostly just kind of rush down and hit them as hard as you can. There's not that much AoE, to be honest. And with characters like Tiaras, you kind of assume they're trying to rush you down with like heavy single target strikes or something along those lines. Anyway, went ahead and banned Ares. My god, I can't believe I forgot that name. Banning Ares, because it's Ares. Pretty common ban is to ban my Rosenseal first, even though I rarely use her. My opponent went straight for Leon. So with this, I was like, alright. I was like, I don't really know what the plan was. So some thoughts I had was, I was pretty sure Leonhardt here has is Empire faction. So I was like, well, let's see if I can just ban the rest of the potential faction buffers for Leon and force him to take a faction buff. So that also just getting rid of Bernhardt is just par for the core. I also just, like I said, I kind of assumed my the Ultimiller was an SP class, and I didn't want to deal with any of the double striking, teleporting, weird things that what he does. Anyway, I take Hilda. They take Juggler, so I was like, alright, they got a tank. Went ahead and took care of their AoE and Assassin. I take Marielle. Marielle's kind of a safe pick because she's both a kind of like a pseudo assassin, at least for the first, or at least for her second strike. Also, until she attacks, she's kind of a pseudo healer. They start getting rid of my casters, not a big deal. Yeah, I got rid of all my long range casters. Essentially, most meta boxes will have Lucretia, Kyura, and Tensei Jessica as their primary casters. Because it tends to give you a pretty high chance that you'll get at least one of them. Anyway, they take Lycoris. So at this point I was like, alright, well, you're taking Lycoris, I don't really need to worry about your healers, because you technically have one. At this point I was like, well, I don't want to deal with any princess factions, and didn't want to give them additional mobility. I also did not want to deal with Helena's AoEs and terrain manipulation, and I went and took Florentia at this point. Because I was technically down to 2 healers, or 2 primary healers. They start banning my assassins. They take Sonya. Sonya can potentially be an assassin, so I kind of, if someone takes Sonya, I usually assume that they're going to be an assassin. And I went ahead and just banned the rest of their healers just to not deal with it. If they want to take Imelda, that's fine. I take Helena for me. Since they have no spears besides Vargas, if they take Vargas, which they didn't, Helena is going to be pretty effective here. The only thing that's a little annoying about Helena is Juggler. because anytime she procs her AoEs, which she does all the time, it kind of heals everybody. And left me with a tank and a healer, so I went ahead and just took Sophia here, so I can have a rewind, as well as just any potential extra healing that I may need from these AoE attacks. Alright, so right off the bat, things to note. Usually when I deal with a Leon, I usually assume that they are they have a 3C. This one does not have his 3C. With Chivalry, Imperial Charge, and 1,000 Hooves. Now this I did kind of expect was, you know, being able to, is a disabling guard. So I kind of assumed that what was going to happen is, like, they're going to try to, you know, either shuffle my formation or do something to disable Hilda's guard and then just rush in with everyone else. Obviously Juggler can also disable guard. Sonya here, no assassin moves, but does have Chaos Helix, which is our 3C. One thing to note about Sonya's 3C is it actually is 2 range, which is something I forgot in this particular matchup. Standard Lycoris here, faction buff, transformation. Well, it's not standard, but she went faction buff with transform and AoE. So if she gets a clock proc, she'll be annoying, but otherwise she's a one-shot wonder. And then Imelda is just pure healing with a Demon Hunter tank. Wait, Demon Hunters? Yeah, you usually don't go Demon Hunters if you want to just go healing with Imelda. Demon Hunters, I mean, I guess the bit of... Okay, I think I understand the formation, the idea. I guess maybe their intent was just the, you know, defense down, possibly mobility down. Now, something to note about Hilda is she's immune to mobility down, so that's not going to work anyway. So, I don't know. Anyway, let's go. I guess things to show off here. Nothing special about Marielle. Standard Hilda. Helena standard. Since I had Sophia, I went ahead and just took Florentia's 3C, just to give some extra AoE and potential battle strategies, and then standard Sophia here. So yeah, the first thing I did is I moved in with Marielle, because I was going to get set up on attacking Juggler and then going straight for their back lines. But I forgot that this attack was 2 range. Good news is, she's full cav and I have spear troops. I did get hit with a ton of debuffs and a bunch of extra fixed damage, which is really annoying. But it did pretty much force Sonya to kind of burn everything. And I could have actually moved in at this point and attacked with Helena, and probably gotten the kill. Also, she attacked without a faction buff, which is also not helpful. I didn't actually check Leon at the beginning of the match like I should have. So I was assuming that this Leon was possibly what's it called? Possibly got the 3C, and I was kind of worried that he'll like move in, like attack Helena, and then AoE Marielle down or something. Honestly, it's not really a big danger because she has the damage reduction and all that, so it wasn't really. I didn't really need to be this cautious. But even against opponents that I feel are under-leveled or, you know, possibly new players, I always try to fight them as if they are higher than me. So I always assume the worst as far as stat comparisons go. So, use Resounding Might, which I think this is like one of the first times I ever used it in Apex. And with that, I dispelled 3 debuffs off of Marielle. One thing I did not realize is the skill range reduction debuff cannot be dispelled, so I actually have to, the only way to get rid of this would be to pass her turn, which I'll have to do with Enduring Faith. So at this point I was like, alright, well, I'm safe, go ahead and get healed up. So yeah. Not sure why he took a faction buff, to be honest. Since he has Chivalry, there's no reason to ever take a faction buff on Leon unless you want to buff somebody else. So at this point I went ahead and just moved in. Did a regular attack, there was no point in popping a 3C for this. And this gets a bunch of terrain up, which is nice. So, not surprising, my opponent went ahead and opened with this. Now what's kind of interesting about this is, obviously, I mean, the AoE was not a big deal. I did just disable his weapon, by the way. Now, usually with the the V-Shock, this would mean 0 mobility. But since Helena ignores movement costs on her own special terrain, she can actually move. She can't move far, but she can actually get away from Juggler if she prefers. So yeah, what could have also happened is my opponent could have tried to rush down Helena, since I didn't actually have her under guard range. Chances are that it would not have gone well, because while she's in this terrain, she gets a bunch of damage reduction, and she essentially self-heals after every combat, every time she gets damaged. So there's a good chance she could actually survive a hit from Leon. I think Leon might have been able to get the kill, though. It's hard to say. But at this point, nothing to worry about, so my opponent's going to go ahead and Demonic Advent, go ahead and do Dark Despair. Does some good damage. But my Helena was immune to debuffs, so no worries there. I went ahead and just attacked Juggler. This was mainly just to get the terrain, get rid of the negative terrain. Of course, it nearly killed me, but that's okay, because now I can do this. And since everyone else is at full health, the extra hits to Juggler is not actually doing anything. It's not undoing any of my work. So, unfortunately, Marielle did get hit with heal negation, so I had to try to get rid of that. And for whatever reason, my opponent just sat there with Leon, didn't even attempt to attack. I mean, granted, it would have been Cav versus Spears, and I did take. I guess one thing I did do different in this match is I took Phalanx because my opponent was mostly physical. There's no point in taking Crystal Molders. Alright, so yeah, Enduring Faith just to get healed up and get rid of that skill reduction range thingamabob. And at this point I was able to just move in and get my kills. So yeah, even with the 50% damage dealt, I was still able to one-shot. Dispelled all of those buffs. Since I have Spear Troops, I was very comfortable in killing Leon here. So even with the Blood Shield, yeah, 37,000 damage. Even that was with the Blood Shield proc, which reduces damage by like 30%. And then I moved back and dispelled more buffs. And at this point, there's nothing. You know, get some free hits in with the AoEs and possible debuffs. Even with a regular attack, and I think he's in water, but he just got nothing. I think this might be the first match I've done on video with Helena, so yay for that, I guess. So yeah, Juggler did the most damage, purely probably from AoEs and just reflecting damage. And of course, AoE did a lot of damage with just my main strikers here. Nothing too special. My tank didn't do any tanking. In fact, she tanked the least amount of damage out of everyone, so good job Hilda there. Alright. So, again, match is at the earliest time slot. And I was looking at my own box for some reason. So they banned my Hilda. Like I said, usually when they ban my Hilda, I expect bad things coming. This box was definitely a bit more traditional. A lot of the staples here. You got the three mage trio here. Got Ares. Illustrial on this map is very dangerous because obviously all the terrain in the middle means you can just get a bunch of free movement. And got an SP Sherry to deal with as well. So yeah, obviously you can probably guess what I'm going to ban first. Yep, that's right, Ares. Ares is just too much of a pain to deal with for me. Went ahead and took SP Freya for this. They went ahead and started knocking out my heat. Well, take out Rose and Seal, which I'm guessing is possibly just so they have the option to do AoEs. Take care of my Tensei Jessica for various reasons. They take Hilda. So I was kind of tempted to ban their Florentia immediately because they took Hilda, but I was like, I need to get rid of Illustrial. Like, if I let them have Illustrial, they'll take Illustrial. So got rid of Illustrial. Got rid of their Lucretia. So trying to do my best to kind of mitigate all the potential threats here. I think Lucretia is more dangerous than Tensei Jessica nowadays. Lucretia has a lot more devastating attacks. Since they banned my Rosen Seal, her 3C can pretty much one-shot my Freya. So yeah, I did not want to deal with that nonsense. So took my Illustrial, which is really good because that gives me a lot of coverage on this map. They went straight for my healers. So at this point, I'm down to 1 healer. I think their goal was to ban all my healers, but literally my Lycoris is a healer, so I'm not too worried about it. They went and took Tensei Jessica, not surprised. At this point, I took care of all their act agains. Player 2 has got an advantage when it comes to act agains. You definitely, because usually when you act again as the first player, you're giving up initiative. But second player can act again freely. So you definitely want to get rid of those if you have the opportunity. So I had to take a healer, so I took Lycoris. They start going for my long legs / assassins. They take Rosen Seal, which I was completely okay with. Got rid of their nasty AoE anti-heal nonsense. I don't think Freya has a Blood Pact, so I was definitely concerned about anti-heals. Or heal negation, rather. And of course, Juggler, I did not want to deal with him. Juggler can actually shut down Illustrial really hard with his AoE. His AoE will make it so everything's treated as water, and which shuts down Illustrial. She just can't move at that point. Went ahead and took Zerda. Get some. At this point, I was trying to get as much coverage as possible for faction buffs. I actually used this opportunity, the timer, to actually look up on Langrisser what faction Tsubame has. For some reason, I kept thinking she had Origin, but she doesn't. She only has Reincarnation and Meteor. So I wanted to ensure I at least had some flexibility as far as buffs are concerned, because I don't have any attack buffers anymore. I just have faction buffers. So I went ahead and took Zerda. Also, Zerda's just a really good assassin anyways, even with the one-turn setup. So they take SP Sherry. At this point, I got rid of the rest of their long legs for the most part. I was more comfortable dealing with their casters than I was dealing with any of their physical attackers. Also, one thing, if they happen to ban certain characters, I could have gone stuck with faction buff on Lycoris and used that to buff Zerda, and that would have given me an opportunity to take a second assassin skill instead of just being stuck with one. Took Tsubame. So essentially, this is long-range strikers / assassins against each other. So for this map, I feel like I have the advantage simply because I have Illustrial. Illustrial just gives me a great deal of control. As you can see from the coverage, which I show every time I have her on this map, it's just ridiculous. Anyway, so obviously the most important things to note is, well, first thing you need to check is see if anyone has any AoEs. None of them have AoEs. So I was completely comfortable with moving in with Tsubame. Now, there is a slight danger. Even without AoEs, there is a way for Tensei Jessica to shut down Tsubame's stealth. And that's by teleporting someone else next to her. If she does that, she can shut down Tsubame's stealth, and then the next character can possibly just get the kill in. One thing I talked about in the last video was the stealth wearing off. Apparently the stealth that you get from the talent does not wear off, unless of course you make it wear off. But the stealth that you get from Killing Machine, the 3C, does have a duration on it. So as long as I take my time, I can keep this buff up as long as I need to, and that'll let me accumulate my my little stacks of +1 mobilities. I did get a Breeze proc, which gives me a lot of coverage here. Also, since I had a decent amount of assassins here, this match is all about outranging each other. I definitely dropped one of my assassin skills and took Quick Step, so I have an extra 2 mobility. Besides that, things to note is Lycoris brought her faction buff. As long as she has a faction buff, her helmet will activate, so that means I can do mass heal or mass resist, or mass heal every turn essentially, and mass resist every other turn. I did take mass resist, mainly because it has immunity to stun. Sherry does have the potential to stun with Raging Storm. The Sherry did take melee troops, but does have an assassin skill. Against squishy targets, she may be able to kill them. Standard Illustrial, standard Zerda, with Bloodbath, and standard Freya with faction buff. Alright, so with all that said and done, let's go. Oh, I didn't go over their stuff, I apologize. So Crystal Molders on Hilda, which really doesn't do anything. Pretty much the only reason you would take Crystal Molders even against physical is just for the passive heal. Besides that, she's standard. She does have War Goddess though. Tensei Jessica, of course, is going the standard support build, so 3C with a bunch of teleports and strengthens. Yeah, they don't have any faction buffs besides Hilda. Rosenseal did not bring a faction buff, so the only person that can get a faction buff is Light of Genesis, or Tensei Jessica rather. Kyura, standard Kyura, both her assassin skills, and then Starshine. And we already gone over Sherry. And Rosenseal is just pure heals. Alright. So, as usual in these types of matches, I have to kind of feel out my opponent and wait to see what exactly they're going to do. I'm staying far back because all it takes is Sherry to get in range of her 2-range attack, and then she can move another 6 steps afterwards to kill anyone she wants, if they happen to be outside guard range. So I was definitely trying to play this very, very safe. I also don't know if my opponent has any plus range staffs. I always assume they do, because it's just safer that way. So I did rush in at this point. The main reason why I rushed in at this point was because the last action that Haneker had here was Rosenseal, and Rosenseal could not do anything. I did keep her Lustriel just out of range just in case. But essentially the intention here is flying troops, Archer. I can kill Sherry. Sherry's more dangerous than Kyura in my opinion. And Light of Genesis can be a bit of a pain, but not the end of the world. Also, this Kyura, by the way, is 5 stars, not 6. Just to point out. Everything else, I think everything else is probably 6 stars. Really, the thing to point out here is Kyura, because Kyura actually missing out on stars means she ignores less magic defense, and she gets less crit damage. Alright, so I go first, and I went ahead and, even with, I had a weird hang that just happened, so I'm probably going to edit that out, and I'm just going to start from right here. Anyway, I was talking, before that happened, we're moving in to go ahead and kill Sherry because we have initiative. Jade Storm does dispel buffs. It also replaces them with debuffs, but of course Rosenseal is here, so none of the debuffs applied. But it's more enough to get a kill. And then I was able to move back with Roundabout. So yeah, this Kyura did have the plus range staff. She also had a Twilight Star. So ended up breaking my my last rights. Probably the only thing that saved me here was one, she didn't have any attack buff up yet. Did she? Yeah, she didn't have an attack buff up yet because it was put on Cherry earlier. The other thing that saved me was possibly being in terrain. Also, the fact that Elven Cavalry also reduced magic damage taken by 30%. So all that combined managed to make me so I could barely survive this attack from this 5-star Kyura that's unbuffed. So yeah, pretty powerful. This was from the 3C, of course. Now the reason why I was actually completely okay with trading at this point. Killing Sherry gave me a lot more control of the map. Also, taking out Sherry meant that the passive bonus from Star Slash is gone. The Star Slash's passive is only active when you have 5 or more allies. So she's down to 4 now, or he's down to 4 now because I killed one of them. So it also reduced the ints by 10% as well. And no more +3 mobility. So really, really good. Alright. So since I survived the hit, I went ahead and moved in and got guard up on Lustriel. The only assassin that's left is Kyura. No one else can guard bypass. Also, moving into this position allowed me to actually get in range to cast a heal, which the heal and the extra heal terrain almost restored her to full, so not too shabby. So at this point, I'm still playing it somewhat safe because I'm still concerned whether or not my opponent will do something reckless, like rush their tank in to break my stealth. So I just stayed just out of range. Of course, if my opponent decides to do something like teleport a character next to her, I mean, we'll just have to deal with it. And getting Zera to set up here. I mean, in any case, whether they go after one person or the other, at this point I have the option to. It just means my other assassins will rush in and clean up instead. So I wasn't at full health. The second Assassin Strike was only like 1.4 times damage instead of 1.6, so it wasn't enough to get the kill. At this point, I was like, alright, well, I can now freely kill what I need. Killing Blow. Fortunately, a lot of Tenya Breezes were proccing, so their tank can actually reach right now. It's really annoying. So, getting healed up here. At this point, it's 5-on-3, so I kind of have control. So, with extra mobility, I was able to get in range to guard bypass and finish off Kayura. I have first strike, so there's no danger of me getting killed. I have Twilight Star, so I break last rights. And that's it for Kayura. So at this point, all they have left is a tank. The tank did try to... oh, couldn't attack because of stealth. So it breaks the stealth. And I still have Illustrial. So I'm just... alright, well, I'll just tag her as well. I'm in no rush at this point. It's 2-on-5. One thing I'm checking. When you have more skill than your opponent... shouldn't I have gotten first strike? Yeah, I want to take a look at that again. That looked like... that didn't look right. They, it might have been the Ragnarok. I think the Ragnarok actually did enough damage to break the 90%. That's actually kind of annoying. I thought I had first strike there. Also, since I lost the, I also got hit there for the fixed damage, I also lost last rights. So, still was able to tank it though. I mean, Crystal Molders don't do a lot of damage. And Hilda's attack is still not high enough to do much. So, it's not the end of the world. Still playing it cautiously, kind of just moving it little by little, just making sure Hilda doesn't do any other shenanigans. Forgot guard was up at this point. This was my fault. But I did move in range to get healed. Also, this is just outside of threat range, so getting reset up in here. And there you go. So not too bad. Been getting a lot better at using Sabame, which is helpful because it means I have more assassins to play around with. And this is one of the few matches where I did not sacrifice Illustrial for no reason, so kind of helpful there as well. But yeah, like I said, I took advantage of the fact I had initiative to take out their Sherry, which in turn debuffed their Kayura, and then from there I kind of had control. Tensei Jessica didn't even have time to do any teleporting shenanigans, so it really worked out in my favor.